Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of College of the Dead, publisher of more than 1,000 independent comic books, covering the non-woke Tom Cruise Top Gun Maverick success. It has now sunk, destroyed, gone past the film Titanic's domestic box office record. Very, very important, very significant, because it's non-woke, because it's character-driven. If it's character-driven, it's never going to be woke. It can't be, because there's character depth and there's a basis in what's called the monomyth. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into an article that got my attention from bleedingfool.com, and we're going to talk a little bit about the hero's journey and how that impacted the development of the Maverick character. Before we get into these articles and this video, I need you to subscribe to the channel, click the bell for notifications, and give me a thumbs up. It's a huge help. All right, this is on the article for Bleeding Fool about how well this movie is actually doing. Top Gun Maverick flying near $1.4 billion worldwide. That's actually a lot of money. It's distributed by Paramount. A big chunk of that money is going directly to Tom Cruise, and it should. He really is Maverick. I mean, he really is this character. Has always sort of done his own thing. But that said, he worked his butt off to make sure that Top Gun Maverick would just be a quality movie. You know, at every turn he was getting harassed of like, oh, we need more inclusion this, we need more representation that. All of those extra things are absolutely fine. There's ways of doing it, but you don't do it by interrupting the hero's journey. You don't do it by making the story about something else other than what the main character needs to go through so they can overcome their fears, they can overcome their doubts, they can pass their tests when they're tested along their way, they can meet allies, they can defeat their enemies, and they can eventually change, evolve, go the next step, and be useful to the rest of the community that they serve. That's the hero's journey. That happened in the original Maverick Top Gun. Okay, I'm not even discussing the sequel. I'm talking about the basic movie. And frankly, I did just go watch before I did this video again, Top Gun again last night, the original. And, I'm deeply involved in writing and character development for the superhero project I'm working on, which I'm going to share with you as soon as possible. But this is really about Top Gun and Tom Cruise's character Maverick. All right, so let's talk about the financial success. Top Gun Maverick opened in theaters 2 months ago, but Tom Cruise's blockbuster still hasn't left the top of the U.S. box office charts. Last weekend, it was still in 6th place, and when Thor Love and Thunder drops out of the top 5 this weekend and heads to streaming, there's a good chance Maverick will climb back up the charts. But it has already sunk James Cameron's blockbuster Titanic, domestically, okay? Because internationally, yes, every country in the world has been showing the Titanic, and the Titanic movie has done incredible internationally with $2.2 billion globally, but $1.4 billion exceeds what Titanic at least did domestically in the United States. So that's one hell of a lot of money. It even includes Titanic's theatrical run and 3D re-release. And you can be sure that at some point Maverick is going to be re-released again. Next year, who knows? Probably. Before too long, they'll re-release it. And when they do, it's going to bring in a ton more money. Maverick at $1.348 billion beat Marvel's Black Panther at $1.348 billion. So just so you understand, Black Panther hit a cultural moment where it got heavily distributed, heavily talked about. It was an okay movie. To me, I don't know what you think. Put in the comments below. Do you think Maverick was better than Black Panther? I thought Black Panther was okay. Nothing wrong with it. It was okay. Definitely had, whatever. I mean, this is not about Black Panther, this video, so won't get too into it. But hey, it was successful. It's a black character. It's great to see success wherever it is. The more success you surround yourself with, the more success you're going to have no matter whose it is. This focus on character, though, was absolutely crucial for the success of the Top Gun franchise. And again, I'm going to put a link to this, and I'll just go over this quickly. And we may do this another video more extensively to talk about this. But I'll put a link to what's here in the script lab from Ken Miyamoto from August 14th, 2020. This goes over the 12 stages of the hero's journey, and this is Christopher Vogler's approach to Campbell's structure. So Joseph Campbell was an author who came up with what he called a hero's journey, and that was the basis for most of the movies that are character-driven that you really like. George Lucas openly has said that he followed the hero's journey book as a guide, basically, in developing the Star Wars franchise through Luke Skywalker. This issue of character development can seem a little mysterious and difficult, and it is, if you're not a dedicated writer and this isn't your passion, particularly, it can be a lot of hard work. But if you're not familiar with it, it's great to learn a little bit about it. If you write some of your own stories, you're developing some of your own characters in particular, you're thinking you might want to, you definitely want to know about the hero's journey. Of course, I'm going to include a link to this in the description below. And I also want you to tell me, it would be a big help. Are you familiar with the hero's journey? Is this the first time you're hearing about it? I'd be thrilled to know that this is people discovering it for the first time. Okay, so this is reduced to 12 steps. This is Christopher Vogler's version of the hero's journey. It's more simplified than Joseph Campbell, and that's fine. There's also something called the story circle, which is even a further simplification by Dan Harmon. And again, if you've heard of the story circle, I want to know about it too. So step 1, the ordinary world. We see the hero's normal life at the start of the story before an adventure begins. So why do you need to see the original world? Well, it's for context. If you see a character and they're in their normal environment, then all of a sudden they're changed to a new environment, you get a sense of the movement of the story, you get a sense of the context. If you see a character and they're just in, fighting or something like that, and that's not normally what they're doing, there's no relevance to it. So there's not going to be an impact on you. Call to adventure. So the hero is faced with an event, a conflict, a problem, or challenge that makes them begin their adventure. That comes from out of the blue. And by the way, this relates to life, right? We don't change a lot of our circumstances usually unless something from out of the blue, an event, a conflict, a problem, a challenge, or opportunity confronts us. And then we say, okay, we're going to go in and deal with that. Step 3, refusal of the call. This doesn't happen all the time. This is kind of an optional thing. The hero initially refuses the adventure because of hesitation, fears, insecurity, or any other number of issues. Particularly in the Top Gun movie, Maverick, having a really hard time complying with what the basic protocols and rules were, even after he was in the Top Gun school, was him refusing the call to duty, the call to the responsibility for the larger adventure of what happens beyond going to that school. It's not just you go to the school. You're supposed to go beyond the school. And that was what he was fighting back at, being so, cocky and all. Number 4, meeting the mentor. The hero encounters a mentor that can give them advice, wisdom, information, or items that ready them for the journey ahead, right? Number 5, crossing the threshold. The hero leaves the ordinary world for the first time and crosses into the threshold into adventure. Tests, allies, and enemies. The hero learns the rules of the new world and endures tests, meets friends, and comes face-to-face with enemies. 7, the approach. The initial plan to take on the central conflict begins, but setbacks occur that cause the hero to try a new approach or adopt new ideas. So what's this about, 6 and 7? This is particularly interesting because with the tests, a hero is challenged because even when the hero has their power, has their ability, they need to be tested to see, what would they do in a tough situation. That's in the story. It's certainly in Star Wars. It's in Top Gun, and it's in every story that you like that's very character-focused. It's not in any woke stories, I promise you that. It's nothing to do with your skin color or how tall you are or where you were born. Now, the approach is interesting because it's sort of a failed attempt at the goal, right? So it's supposed to relate to when you and I are going through doing things in our life and we're trying to get somewhere, but there's bumps along the way. So what are you going to do when there's bumps along the way? You're going to give up, or you're going to go forward and figure out a new way if you can't go forward. The ordeal, number 8. Things go wrong and added conflict is introduced. The hero experiences a more difficult hurdle and obstacles, some of which may lead to a life crisis. In the case of the movie Top Gun, we know that Maverick's partner, a longtime friend, dies tragically, and he feels responsible, even though technically he's not responsible. You can tell someone they're not responsible for the death of a friend when you were there, and maybe you could have saved them if you thought more quickly or did something different. He blamed himself, and he barely came out of it. The reward. After surviving the ordeal, the hero seizes the sword, a reward that they're earned that allows them to take on the biggest conflict. It may be a physical item or a piece of knowledge or wisdom that help them to persevere. So they gain their power and the ability to overcome obstacles. Now they can face the challenge that they must face. And by the way, the challenge is a big challenge. There are stakes. It goes beyond what the character and their own personal life. In the case of Top Gun, there was a conflict where he had to fight a Russian fighter or Soviet fighter. And that was very important. The stakes were not just his personal life. It was going beyond his personal life. 10, the road back. The hero sees the light at the end of the tunnel, but they're about to face even more tests and challenges. 11, the resurrection. This is the climax. The hero faces a final test, using everything they've learned to take on the conflict once and for all. The return, the hero brings their knowledge or the elixir, so they may have some magic power, or they discover fire or something like that. And they're bringing it back to the ordinary world. They're also bringing that back to the ordinary world, not for their own use. A villain uses their power just for themselves. A hero uses their power for the good of society. And what society? The society that they're part of. Everyone's part of the human society, but then it gets a little smaller. He's a hero in his country in this character, Maverick, because at the end of Top Gun, he becomes a professor to then teach other Top Guns. Fascinating to me. This kind of stuff is very helpful for writers, especially new writers. Even if you have a good idea, that doesn't make you a good writer. A good writer is able to take their ideas and then convert it into a relatable story. And when you're focused on woke stuff, right, it doesn't matter so much what your story is or what your character goes through. Talk about character journey. What your character goes through to become who they are, and how to learn how to use their power in a socially responsible way. You remember in the origin of Spider-Man, everybody knows it now, that when Spider-Man was running around having fun, becoming really, really popular and making money, being on TV shows and beating up people for money in wrestling matches, that ultimately led to an irresponsible use of his power that accidentally caused the death of his uncle. And it was only after that terrible thing happening that he realized, oh man, I've got to figure out what to do with my power and be socially responsible. And that's why you have a hero named Spider-Man who is out there trying to be the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, serving his community, not serving his ability to get the next TV show off of his special powers. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. I would love to hear what you have to say. I'm going to do a video soon about Valiant. This is deeply disturbing to me to see Valiant shutting down yet again. And it looks like they probably will shut down. I don't have inside information on that. I would have done this one first, but it's incredibly disturbing to me personally for a few different reasons. All right, I will see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you. Don't forget to subscribe and give me a like if you like the video. Appreciate you.